Welcome back to the Other Side Lifestyle Podcast with Jim and Aram. Today, our guest, he's a prolific man. He is a professor of sorts. He is the first one to visit the casting couch in the Other Side Lifestyle Lounge. In case you're wondering what we're talking about and you're watching us on YouTube, there it is. If you're not watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe because this is a pantsless episode. We've done topless, but this is pantsless. And on the YouTube channel, you will be able to access the below the desk cameras that we have all set up. There's no charge. The first one's free. Anything after, you will have to join our Patreon for just under $200 a month for workouts and pantless episodes.
That was stellar. Isaac, thank you for coming on today. I appreciate you joining us. Isaac and I had a chance to connect a little bit further at the Real Coaches Summit. He is a team lead, which he will describe later, for a company called TRM, which I'm now working with. It's called the Trainer Revenue Multiplier. And I'll let you kind of take away the message there because you're obviously more in tune with it. You can explain it better, but thanks for being here, man.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be a part of the podcast.
That's true. That's true.
It is. It's an absolute honor. And, you know, I'm excited to be here to be able to hopefully bring some value to your listeners, both in like the training, nutrition, lifestyle space, as well as, you know, maybe some of the trainers who are listening that might be interested in how to actually make an okay living out their purpose of serving others. And so that's kind of why I'm here.
Remember that as a coach and a trainer, you're doing it to help people, not make money, Isaac. So don't try getting these people to create a career or have any financial independence at all. That's a ridiculous thought. We're here to help people.
Yeah, we're doing this for, this is basically
socialists, right?
Charity work. It's charity work.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in the industry as a business to consumer, as a trainer, coaching folks to help them with their weight loss goals?
Yeah, so I've been a coach for coming up on 12 years of actual in the trenches coaching. And with that, a majority of that has been spent in the kind of physique enhancement, contest prep, and powerlifting space. Went to school for exercise science. Bless you. Went to school for exercise science. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Nothing like a little snot shot to get us started. So
yeah. He doesn't know how to use that mute button when he hacks up a lunge.
Where is the fucking... Oh, there it is. Sorry.
Hurry. If we could turn his camera off, this would be a more enjoyable visual experience on YouTube.
So were you did you take the traditional route like most of us old people did of like training people in person and then migrating to the online space, or were you always online?
Absolutely. I did the even more traditional space where I interned at a really cool gym for free and lived in my car so that I could continue the internship because I knew that those people were way smarter than I would probably ever be. And I wanted to soak up that knowledge as much as I could. So I said, screw living in an apartment that I can afford. I'm going to live in a Kia Forte until the wheels fall off. And
sounds like Alex Hormozy was your mentor.
That was probably about the same time he was sleeping on a floor in his gyms.
So where did you go wrong? How come he's so successful?
Well, I decided no, that's a fair question. That's a fair question. I decided that I wasn't living to my full potential, so I decided to drop out of school at the time and join the Marine Corps. The other horrible decision I made. But no,
was that a bad decision?
No, it was an amazing decision. That being said, there was a lot of mistakes that I made in that time frame. Being young and dumb, but we all have those phases. So,
are we allowed to ask? I feel like I want to.
Yeah, we have to ask. We got to. This is.
Is there any example? Yeah, that you'd want to share. Is there any example that you'd want to share of what you're kind of referencing to?
Oh, to being young and dumb?
Yeah. During that time in the Marines. Just losing your shit?
Too many to count. But I would say it was just this idea of being almost invincible. And with that, you do dumb things without thinking of the consequences. And so it was, horrible relationships, horrible alcohol abuse, failed marriage, like just a bunch of mistakes.
Like in your civilian life, mistakes while you were in the Marine Corps.
Pretty well, it's I would say Marine Corps mistakes that some civilians make that Marines make times 10.
Yeah.
And that being said, though, amazing relationships, amazing ability to learn leadership from bad examples and the best examples I could ever have. Learning how to deal with a multitude of people and to lead them towards a common cause. How to utilize strengths and weaknesses, how to handle just emotions, and how to handle stress in an extreme case, but to be able to then translate all that to the civilian side.
Yeah. So that was probably one of the greatest things that you experienced in terms of the role that you're in now.
Absolutely. 100%. Being able to like actually lead people in a way that makes sense and not is like they're just a number.
What are some driving characteristics of that leadership style that might be different than somebody else? Like, what are some things that stand out as this is what is maybe missing in leadership?
Great question.
Honestly,
hard hitting.
No, it was good. And in the fitness, the idea of leadership is so bastardized. It's like who just looks the coolest, who has the nicest physique, and who makes the most money doing what they do. And it's like that's not leadership. And so for me, it was like I need a mission that surpasses what I can do alone. And then I need to find other people who also believe in that mission and understand that they can't do it alone. But not just finding people, but find people whose strengths fit my weaknesses.
As part of the leadership team you're referring to specifically.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
So it's like understanding like my gym that I have here. I understand like I can't do everything alone.
You hate the computer work.
Like it's well, even like more so I can't be on the gym floor all the time. I have to run a business. I have to grow a business. But how can I still create the culture that I need? Well, the guy that I have kind of helping me run the gym, Stan, he's amazing. He's also a Marine, ex-Marine. He loves building culture. He loves that leadership. He embodies that the same way I do, but he hates business.
Yeah.
Great. Do you buy into the same mission I do? Absolutely. How about I let you stay in your zone of genius, do what you freaking love to do, and I can help grow the business so you can keep doing what it is that you love and not have to worry about everything else.
How does that different than leadership in terms of coaching individuals? Is your background and this mission-driven mindset, does that make it hard coaching a regular person?
Yes and no. It did at first. When I got out of the military and seeing like trying to help, someone just wanting to lose some weight. And it's like, here's the plan to get there. And all of these excuses pop up. And so
you're like, I don't get it.
The Marine in me is like, that's not a freaking excuse. Like that's just life. You're letting life be excuses. Like suck it up. And that didn't work. And so I had to check myself and be like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
And thinking back to some of the best leaders and some of the leadership that I had to do in the military was like all of these, kids that I work with, these 18 to like 22-year-old kids that come from various walks of life. And one of the unique things about the Marine Corps that I know is still in other branches, but not to the same extent, is like every single Marine that I came across had a completely distraught, traumatizing childhood.
Yeah.
And so being able to help navigate that to be able to bring out their best so that they could accomplish the mission really translated. So once I had like enough failures as a coach to be like, wait a second, I need to look deeper. What's their actual background? What's their history? And once I started diving into that, it became like almost a snapshot of what it was like in the Marines, where it's like, oh, this person has an unhealthy relationship with food because their parents like forced them to sit at the table and eat every bite of food whenever they sat down at dinner. And if they didn't, they would get beat. And it's like, maybe that's the cause of this, and me just telling him suck it up and do the plan isn't going to fix that problem.
Yeah.
And so it did translate over into, leadership from a coaching standpoint, of being able to fully dive into, where did you come from? What's your background? What's your history? And how can I help you understand the strengths of that history and the lies that you've made about that history, to help rewrite your present and your future?
Yeah. I think it's such a key thing that you're saying there, and how it became different when you started to care about the individual. 100%. We talk about that a lot, and it's even tough sometimes with maybe a new client or somebody who's thinking about it, because I've said from the beginning, and because I was older when I started, so it's always more than nutrition. I'm a nutrition coach, but it's always more than nutrition. And that's the stuff that you're saying. And I think for people who are looking to get a coach, who are working with somebody, it's important to understand that we need to know those things. We need to know about your life and what's really going on, and kind of figure out what makes you tick, and find out. We're not psychologists or psychiatrists, but we can relate potentially to what you're going through. So I think that's a key thing that you just said, actually caring about people.
Let me add to that and say that when he talks about failures, and as a coach, that's such an important concept to talk about, whether you have a coach, whether you're thinking about having a coach, or whether you want to be a coach or are a coach. We're human beings too, and we're not infallible. Like, we're going to fuck up. And sometimes we fuck up at the expense of you taking the brunt of that failure. Talk about some of the mistakes that you made as a coach with your clients specifically. What types of consequences did that have? And what have you done since to remedy those issues?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two sides of this. There's a applicable, side of the actual, just coaching process. And then there's an emotional side of this, of the actual, relationship of coach client, and what that looks like. And I've failed miserably at both of those a lot, especially early on in my career. And I still fail quite often, but I'm happy to say that through trial and error, I've been able to make those failures less often and less dramatic. But with the applicable side of things, the more practical side of things, it's like feeling like a one protocol is going to help solve everything. Yeah. Or trying to do too much, trying to throw the kitchen sink at somebody because I read a cool book and I thought, that had all the secrets, and realizing that it didn't work, and then losing the client because they felt like they weren't being heard or weren't, actually being taken seriously. And feeling like my knowledge was superior to anything else, and thinking that, because I studied this specific thing, like it's going to work. And if it doesn't, it's just because you're lying to me and doing something wrong. Right. Like, that's so far from the truth. I had so little knowledge that what I knew, I was super confident in. And it wasn't until I knew enough to realize I don't know shit.
Yeah. Like, what's those stages?
Became somewhat knowknowledgeable.
What are those stages? Like, I don't know. What are the four stages?
Conscious incompetence.
Yes. Yeah. But he was
consciously
what incompetent. You know what you don't know, you don't know what you know, you don't know what you don't, or whatever it is. That whole thing, it's exactly that. Yeah, the more you learn, the more you realize, I don't know shit.
Yep.
And then it's easy to get into that, I need to learn more kind of thing. And then you realize, I don't need to know everything. We don't need to get into the craziness of all the information that's out there. Everything that you just described is exactly what a typical person is dealing with their dieting or physique change. They get fixated on one thing. This is how it's going to work. I did keto and it worked. It's the only way. This is the only way. They tell everybody about this one way. And then it's through all these failures that they eventually, hopefully, start to realize it's an actual lifestyle change, which we cannot say enough. But people have to go through that process just like you did as a coach. It's exactly the same stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're not a failure. You don't identify as a failure, even though you had all these fails.
Yeah. And one thing that I like to say often, and hold on, I'm going to shut this door real quick because my cleaning lady is vacuuming right outside.
Man, he has people for that.
Got a cleaning lady.
Me and Aram, we have to clean our own things.
Yeah, Jesus.
It's my gym. It's the gym. It's the gym cleaning lady. I don't clean at home.
Even he has a cleaning lady as his gym. We don't even have a gym. I mean, look at this guy's crushing it.
God.
He has people.
Thank God I'm with TRM. My life's going to change.
Dude, side note, TRM completely changed my life, like 100%.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that later. But no, with the mistakes, one thing I say often is like I failed a lot, but I haven't failed yet. Because the only way to actually fail is if you give up, if you quit. And so
well, that's what
I failed a lot, but I haven't failed yet.
Yeah, well, I think it's scary because we talk about that. I talk about it a lot. I'm sure Ram does a little bit too, and we've talked about it with guests and podcasts. But I'm always talking about that identity and the labels. You know, these people fail at diets or this or that, and they're like, "I'm a failure. Like, I just can't do this. This isn't me. This is how I've always been." They put these labels on themselves, and you just told all these examples of failing in every possible way, living in your car, failing clients, losing clients because of it. And not once was there a tone or an undertone of I'm a failure. It's like you're thankful, you're grateful for all those fails because that's what's created who you are. It's awesome. All right, go ahead. You had something.
Every failure is a stepping stone to success.
It has to be. And that attitude has to prevail over every attempt because it's you're not going to get it right the first, I don't know, however many times it happens. Like not many people are natural at anything. And I think with things like eating better and going into a gym and understanding how to train properly, those are skill sets. Like those are skill sets that our parents don't put upon us unless they have experience in that field. We don't really learn from our friends because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. So it's either trial and error because we've actually taken the time to figure it out for ourselves, or we've spent the uncomfortable amount of time having to seek out credible knowledge, which is not easy to do, especially in today's day and age. Because back in the day when we were coming up, you know, we
Men's
had
Health
people,
magazine,
right? We had people that were relatively reliable. Like we bought
Men's Fitness if you were hardcore. Men's Fitness,
yeah, but that shit had some credibility. Like
yeah,
there was, you know,
and you weren't, and it was like a consistent message. Imagine if there was 50 magazines. Imagine if there was 50 lifting magazines when I was growing up in the 90s.
Right, you'd
and
be
they
fucked.
all had and they all had different perspectives.
You'd be fucked.
That's what people now are dealing with Instagram.
Well, they're dealing with way worse than that. So when it comes down, let's talk about the X's and O's a little bit, Isaac. You've helped a lot of people achieve their best self physically and emotionally and spiritually and mentally. What are some of the common threads of the people that do achieve the results that they want versus the ones who don't?
Good question.
Or even give an example of somebody who it wasn't going well and what clicked or what turned, or if there's an example of that kind of person where you might have been thinking they don't have that thing that the other people have, but then maybe something turned around for them.
Yeah. So I would say a willingness to expand what they accept as truth. And with that, like there was a specific client who struggled to see results starting out. And so they were real quick to revert back to old behaviors and old patterns that they saw. You know, their mom, you know, did the whole yo-yo dieting, every single fad diet to come out, their mom would do. So any kind of fad diet that would come out, you know, nowadays
fucking
they
Oprah.
would do, right? Just
fucking Oprah.
like just absolutely, you know, Dr. Oz just
yeah, even I just thinking
over.
back in the day, me growing up, and every day coming home from school, my mom's watching Oprah at 4:00. This is like pre Dr. Oz. I mean, I'm older, and it's like, and it was the same thing. And then Oz just was like that on steroids.
No, like it's Oz now. Like they're just watching Dr. Oz now. What's he gonna do? Or whoever the new carnivore diet, you know, snake oil peddler is, you know, nowadays. But it was really like those behaviors of just kind of, oh, I'm not seeing immediate results, so it must not work. I'm going to revert back. And so what clicked was finally just being like, and for me, it took a gamble of like, hey, like I know you want this. We've talked about this a lot. I know you want this. I am confident in my ability to get you the results you want if you just trust me. And I will give you every reasoning, all the resources, every study, every case study, every anecdotal study that I have to back up the decisions I make. And if in 2 months you see 0 results, I will give you your money back. And I will refer you to a coach that can help you the way you need it. And so she said, okay. She was like, all right. I was like, And the scary part was like, I wanted to raise her calories. She had chronically underate for years and years. So her metabolism was just shot. And she's like, but calories in versus calories out. And I was like, you're right. It is calories in versus calories out. The problem is your metabolism has slowed down so much that your calories out is still lower than your calories in. And your calories in are so low that your body is not healing any other system other than your ability to get up and walk across the room. Like, that's the extent of what energy levels you have left. So in order to build up your calories out again, we need to build up your calories in. And I was like, we had this agreement.
Can you paint a little context on this specific individual? Because when we start talking about metabolism, people will get confused about the type of individual we're talking about. So can we just have some context on like size, age, weight? Like that's because when we hear bad metabolism, a 240-pound obese woman's going to take that and be like, well, my metabolism is too slow. Yeah. That's why I'm not losing weight. So I just want, you know what I mean? No.
100%. So to give context, she was not like obese by any means. She was not a athlete by any means. She was 5'5" and like 170 pounds. And in her late, she's like 39 at the time.
Okay.
And
this is what Aram describes as the hardest client to have.
Yeah.
Borderline perimenopause, like in and out of perimenopause.
This
is
the challenge.
Coming to me to really try and get out of that perimenopause kind of state. But again, she had been essentially at the end of this process had her eating around 2,000 calories as a maintenance level calories at the end of this. But for like 2.5 years leading up to this, she was eating maybe 1,100 to 1,200 calories a day, maybe. And like, that's a good day.
And for that, because again, like we talk about context, we've talked about reverse dieting and things like that before, how our minds and things have changed on it. The terminology of it and the way people start to demonize it. Like, it doesn't exist. There's no need for it. And I feel a little bit different than the way a lot of people do. I could care less about the terminology. And sometimes it's just, hey, we just need to get you more comfortable eating more on a regular basis just to establish a baseline, whether we call it reverse dieting or not, blah, blah, blah. This person specifically, do you believe that they were eating that, say, 7 days a week? Or was it, hey, they're under eating and then overdoing it on the weekends when they finally were able to turn their brain off, falling into that cycle? So now if we can get them to eat more on a regular basis, maybe they're not doing the overeating thing because there's not that impulse to eat a ton because you've been under eating. That whole thing, hopefully people just followed everything I just said. If not, maybe your explanation can clear it up.
Yeah, no. So by and large, that's what we see more often. For this specific case study, like she wasn't. She was genuinely under eating a lot every day.
Like compliance was on point.
Compliance was not even, there was no compliance in terms of, it was just mentally, if she knew that she was eating anything over like 1,200, she would freak out. Like it was, and it was again stemmed from her mom's relationship with food. And her mom was always telling her like, oh, if you eat that, you're going to get fat.
Yeah, you've had enough. All that stuff.
Exactly. So it was that style. Like she couldn't rationalize eating anything more than what she was eating because she equated it to, I'm going to be fat and then I'm not going to be accepted by the people who should love me.
Yeah. And this would be the person who gets online and says, I'm eating in a calorie deficit and can't lose weight. And then everybody's like, no, because you're not eating in a calorie deficit. You know, but
she's probably overly eating.
Yeah. And then they're like, no, you're not in a calorie deficit. And she might, 1,200 calories should be a calorie deficit. It doesn't mean it's a calorie deficit. So this 100%. Person could potentially be one of those people who thinks they're in a calorie deficit, starvation mode, my body's not blah, blah, blah. But really, they've just adapted to these low calories because they're eating it all the time. And they think they're in a deficit, but they're not. It's just, hey, your body's only going to put out what you put in. You know, it's like a dimmer switch on the light. You have the low calories, you have the dimmer switch down. There's only so much light that's going to come out, so much energy that's going to come out. Isaac's bugging out right now because Aram disappeared. He'll come back on maybe. We'll see. But now we got to slowly start bringing that dimmer switch up. Let's get these calories up. How did you do that with her? Was it the slow, like 50 calories extra this week just for the mental aspect of it? Another 50. See, you didn't get fat with an extra 50 calories, another 50. How did you do that process with her?
Yeah. So for her, it was, again, she loved reassurance. And so I would use research, both clinical and just anecdotal. And for me, just a lot of my history is in the research space. I loved like the research side of things. College, I really loved like taking part in research. And so it was really being able to say like, hey, first we're going to raise your protein. Like that's the first thing we're going to do. And this can be through shakes that you can drink, or you can add to your coffee, or, Greek yogurt. And we can just mix like some protein into the Greek yogurt, so it doesn't change like you're eating more food per se, but you're going to get more protein. And why we're doing this is because protein is a more thermogenic food source. And there's a lot of research. And I showed her the actual meta-analyses that showed like whenever we fed more women and men protein, they didn't gain fat. They actually burned fat throughout that process while raising their calories. So she was like, okay, that makes sense.
And she was the kind of person who needed to see these things and understand it for her to implement it. Okay.
Exactly. So I showed her the research, and then I, up the protein first. And so for about 2 weeks, we just focused on that, and she didn't gain any fat, and she actually felt kind of full for once. And like, she was like, okay, cool. So I was like, next we're going to raise your carbs and fats. And yeah, but at that same time, that was the reaction. But I was like, did I steer you wrong with the protein? And she said no. I was like, okay. So again, we have this agreement. And if in 2 months you see 0 results, you can fire me, right? Let's up these. And so this is where the first real stumbling block happened. I raised the carbs and fats to match that raise in protein. So it was an additional, she was at this point now about 14 to 1500 calories from like the 11 to 12. And for 2 weeks, she saw 0 results.
0 results, meaning the scale did not go down.
The scale, yeah, exactly.
So that one result.
She was freaking out. And I was
was she lifting? Was she training in the gym and things like that?
So this was another thing. I had taken down her stress, her external stress, so her training, and she wanted to do like an hour cardio every day.
Yeah.
She lifted. I was like, no, we need to lower your stress so that your body can actually get into a rest and digest.
But I'm gonna get fat.
No.
Yeah. So when that was the argument, I told her, did you gain weight? She was like, no. It's like, so you're telling me that we raised your calories and lowered your cardio and lowered your training, and you gained 0 pounds. That
is victory.
I was like, that's progress.
Yeah.
Now, don't hate me. Again, we have this agreement. I'm going to raise it a little more. And she was like, okay. At this point, she was like, okay, I get this now. And
you're like a month or so in.
So we raised it again.
You're like a month to 4 to 6 weeks in.
She saw 0 weight gain. But now she's feeling better. She has more energy. She has a little bit more focus. She can move around a little bit better. She's noticing that her cycle is starting to regulate again. Yeah. She's like, I haven't had like a period that wasn't like killing me in years. Right. Like, and so she started to notice that. I was like, cool, let's raise it again. And this time she was like, okay, like, let's see where it goes. So I raised it again. And now this was the like 2-month mark. She lost 4 pounds.
Total in the 4 months or after that last raise?
After that last raise.
Lost that in what, like a week or two?
2 weeks. She lost 4 pounds. And now we had her up to about 1,700 calories. And she's not killing herself in the gym. She was bought in.
Ladies, are you paying attention?
And this was someone who was very like, I don't know. Like, I don't. And
that's a classic individual that we'd be working with. Even if it wasn't the chronically low calorie intake, every other aspect is a classic. So this applies to so many people. I got to click the more clip. We got to make this like a little 4-minute clip on YouTube or something. Go ahead.
So at this point, she was bought in. She was like, I get it now. So then we raised it one more time. It was about 19 to 1950. And at this point, she had lost another like pound. But then like, I just wanted to keep it there, see how she did. And that is where she started to like gain a pound, lose a pound, like right within that range. So I was like, okay, if we average this out, this is probably where your maintenance level is, but let's keep you here. And then after that, we scheduled another doctor's appointment, get labs and everything. She was out of perimenopause. Her energy levels had regulated. She was on a regular cycle again. No external physiological things being used. She didn't need thyroid medication. She didn't need any kind of birth control to regulate her cycle or her hormones. Like she was good.
Damn.
And like that was at that point she was bought in.
How hard did you get?
Yeah.
It was pretty. I was pretty excited.
Like that's one of those. Those are the best when you have, and I have a handful in my history of that, and it is the best. It's the best when somebody gets that place where they start trusting. How hard was it for her to stay at that maintenance for a period of time versus can we get into diet phase?
She wanted to. She felt great. She felt great.
She was cool staying there.
She was
That's
cool staying
awesome.
there. We stayed there, and ultimately, her goal was like one day she wanted to compete. Like I was on her bucket list before, and so honestly, we got her to compete at
really
41. So we started when she was like 39.
I would have been so afraid to even attempt to encourage that with somebody with that background. Good for you guys for doing it.
She did great. Well, it's because she had fully understood the importance of food at that point.
That's awesome.
And so even like, and the level of communication, like when I prep coach, it's really like, I try and have really good communication. Like I want to make decisions and then be confident in the decisions, not because I say trust it, but because I've given them enough reason to trust it.
Yeah.
So that when I do say trust it, it's because they have the knowledge and the education now to like, they know why. And so for her, it was really important. Like at the end of prep, we were already talking about like how we were going to reverse, like the inevitable at the end of prep, when you really get stage lean, most women lose their cycle. And so it was like, don't freak out. Like we're going to try and keep your cycle as long as possible. She lost it her last month. But it was like already understanding and having, chastaberry on hand, having certain, supplements on hand so that as soon as the stage was done, like you're still on prep until you're back to maintenance. Like that's something all my clients understand. You don't just get a hall pass to do whatever you want forever. Like, no, you're on prep still until you're back to maintenance.
Yeah.
And so we went through that whole reverse process again. This time was a little bit faster so that there wasn't the binge eating kind of behaviors that happened. We incorporated the right supplements. Her cycle came back within a few weeks and she was back to a baseline, still not perimenopausal, like still feeling great, hit her bucket list, got third at her show in Masters out of like, I think
3
in her class. Yeah, that would be great.
I like those guys. Like I got third place in my jiu-jitsu tournament. Oh, there was 3 people. There was 3 people. Yeah. I heard she's 220 pounds now. Tell us about what happened.
From a metabolic standpoint,
I can't maintain.
When you were going through that rough.
But yeah, so go ahead, continue. Tell us about
talking about
where
a
she's
2.5 year or so process to get rebounded, to get recovered, to get the metabolism firing on a better course, to then also be able to even consider competing, which is a fucking bear of a task. A lot of people.
Wild. Yeah. And was she like married, kids, anything like that? Just curious with going into competition at that age.
No, she was a pretty intensive like aunt. She helped kind of raise her nieces and nephews. Okay. That being said, though, she had a pretty intensive job. So she worked a lot, and her job was more sales. So she'd be doing dinners and lunches and taking clients out and all of that. Oh. So navigating that was a challenge, but honestly, she had other health issues that I didn't talk about on here just for personal sake, but they were health issues that no doctor could fix for years. Years. And through our process, she was able to see healing from that and then not have to go back to the doctors for years. Like she's still healthier than she had ever been.
So point being, follow at the prolific professor and hire him, not me or Aram.
No, like I'm not a special coach. It's really just the basics, right? It's the basics. Yeah. But the thing is, just through that process and genuinely caring about the individual and not just trying to get them lean, right? But to actually understand where they're coming from, their history, their actual like markers, their health, their where they're at, and helping them do that. saw amazing results to the point where she was completely bought.
So,
and now she is going to be my client.
This is a good segue.
Completely quit coaching
into
Aram,
that's
okay. That's awesome.
Into one of the main pillars that TRM has.
The original listeners know how important it is when he says that word. It's been a while.
In your best way, Isaac, can you describe what that looks like? And I think when we identify what that looks like, a lot of people that have coaches that might be listening to this or are considering coaches are going to understand where they should be going because of that.
Yeah. So the whole pillar of heart-centered coaching and heart-centered excellence is understanding that we got into this business, at least hopefully most of us got into this business because we saw that there was a need to take care of people and to help them either heal or see progress, to gain confidence, to do something for that person that can allow them to drastically change their life for the better. And from that, money is a byproduct. It isn't the reason. It isn't the goal. It's a byproduct because just like any service we go get, there's a payment for that service, but it's the actual understanding of service, like actually serving somebody, that is the goal, and to serve them at the highest level and to make them, feel like they're truly, like their lives are changing. And so the heart-centered approach to business is understanding like money should not be your goal. If money is your goal, there's a million other coaching companies out there that can help you scale your.
They can teach you cold DMs. It's awesome.
They'll give you all the scripts that you need to help you get sales for the next 3 months until that script is null and void. And then you have to go back.
I don't think we have enough time on the podcast.
There's tons of companies for that.
Can you name a couple?
I want to.
Just the one that you love the most. I hope everybody that just heard what Isaac said about heart-centered coaching, you see the analogy between the way you're treating yourself and the scale. The scale cannot be the only goal, just like money cannot be the only goal. You have to be looking at this from a holistic perspective. You have to start treating yourself the way that he's talking about. What word did I just lose? Treating.
But I think there's a very important point to be made here, and that's
the way that you're treating the client. It's the exact same
whether you hire
thing.
A company like TRM to help you grow your business, whether you hire a coach to help you with your fat loss results, the people that you hire aren't the answer to your problems. They just aren't. We're going to do our best to serve you to the best of our ability. Like TRM is going to do the best to serve me to the best of their ability, but I still have to go through and do the work that they're asking me to do. So I can't just jump on the phone calls and put it on mute and take the video off and go fucking walk around my apartment for the hour during that phone call. I have to sit there, be present, learn, understand, comprehend, ask questions. I have to show up, and then I have to participate with some level of enthusiasm. Same way that if you hire a coach today, tomorrow, at some point in the future, or if you have one today, if it is not working for you, you have to start to ask yourself some questions. Is it a coaching problem, meaning that the person delivering that service is at fault somehow? Or is it a personal responsibility issue where you're not actually participating in the thing that you're asking for? So when you as a team leader of TRM, have you had in the past, people will pay you for business coaching? They go through the process. They get all the assignments and the modules and the worksheets and the phone calls. And at the end of their tenure with you, nothing happens. And what do you say to that person?
Yeah, that has happened, unfortunately.
To me, anyway, go ahead.
Quite often. And it's at the end of the day, it's like, what'd you come here to do? Like, did you come here to change your life, to build a business that can help spread an impact? Or did you come here just because someone told you that you should?
I think sometimes people too, they roll in thinking that you're going to hand them everything, like literally, and that they're not going to have to do anything. Just like some people hire a coach and they think, I'll just, like Aram just said, we're not a solution. We're a gateway, we're a guide, something like that, but you still have to do the work. Do you think a lot of them just get in there and they're, oh, I got to do stuff?
There's two cases that come to mind. And one was that where it's like, I'm not going to do it. Like I have a 9-to-5 and it's paying for me to do this, but I'm honestly pretty comfortable with my 9-to-5. So I'm just going to kind of self-sabotage so that I don't have to do it, but I can at least say that I'm trying.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side of it, of the people who are like, I love the grind. I love the hustle. I work 18 hours a day. And it's like, cool, but you're doing all of the wrong things. Like, here's the things that I needed you to do. You did everything except the specific things that I got you to do. And the result is the exact same as your results have been for the last year before coming here, which is a horrible business. And like change requires change. Like Theo Vaughn said that on his podcast, and it was so profound. I was like, man, Theo, dropping the bombs.
He follows me on Instagram, and he saw that post from 2 years ago. Okay, so fuck him.
Change requires change, and it's so true. Like, you can do the hustle grind work, and when I called this person out, they got offended. They were like, I'm a good entrepreneur. I'll work 20 hours a day. I'm like, cool. Again, you're doing all the things that I told you not to do, and not doing the very few things that I told you to do that will actually grow your business. And so again, I'm going to ask you, why are you here? Are you here to just listen and then tell me to fuck off and like go do your own thing? Or are you here to actually change your business and impact more people?
How many times do you think he said those guys don't know what they're talking about?
A lot. 100%. A lot.
Do you get annoyed
to our face?
Oh, really? Do you get annoyed as I do when I hear people say that they're an entrepreneur and then they work 20 hours a day? I'm like, you own a job that you have. You're not an entrepreneur. You're not starting multiple businesses, creating something, and then you're hands off. You're not an entrepreneur. You own your job. That's it. And then the people that are like, I can't work for somebody. I can only work for myself. And now all of a sudden, all of your customers are your bosses. You're working for them. You can say all day, I'm an entrepreneur. I can't work for me. I work for myself. And then you're still at the beck and call of the customer. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's just me.
No, I get mad at that because that was me. And I hate the old version of me. Yeah. I was that person who was like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'll grind. I'll hustle, and part of that was just me growing up really poor. And so kind of blaming my parents. And now looking back, realizing my dad was amazing and did everything he could just to make sure that there was food on the table and wasn't going to sell his integrity to do so. But for me, I just went the complete opposite. Like, I'm not going to struggle like that. So what I do, I struggled a lot. And was
You're doing the same thing he's doing. He's hustling, grinding too.
Exactly.
You didn't see it.
I just put a fancy label to it, like entrepreneur.
Yeah, you're like, he's never around. My dad's abandoned me. Like, that's their perspective as a kid.
Yeah, fuck
and then you grow up and you're like, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to hustle.
Well, just to provide an actual example. Like, I had a call today with Matt Park.
What's his new name?
TRM.
Like Sufed Safadi?
And we talked for an hour. And after an hour, I have 5 assignments written down on paper that I have to complete. Not have to. Let's take the have to out of it, right? When you tell a client to track food, yes, I have 5 tactics that I can deploy next week that I have 5
opportunities. You have 5 opportunities to better your business.
No different at all than if you were to come to us for body transformation coaching and we told you, hey, do this, this, and this. And then we're going to evaluate you on a weekly basis and check in on you and see how you're doing. And if those things aren't getting done, then you're going to be in the same exact spot that you are next week that you started off last week. So it's not going to be a Matt Park problem or a TRM problem if my business doesn't grow after the advice that he gave me today. He gave me 5 practical things that I can change almost immediately, or at least 3 things that I can change immediately and 2 things that I have to corroborate with somebody else or collaborate with somebody else on. But that still requires me to have to go and fucking do the work. Like, I have to go and do the work. I have to pick up the phone. I have to schedule meetings. I have to change systems. There's things that I have to physically be responsible for. So none of this stuff is a hands-off process, whether it's business to consumer coaching to try to improve your lifestyle, improve your relationship with food, improve your body image, lose body fat, or if it's a business to business situation where you're trying to actually make more money and become a better business owner. So it's getting to a point now where I think we are just so void as a society of personal responsibility that it's everybody else's fault but ours. And until that changes, I think we're going to be headed down the wrong path collectively. Well, no, I mean,
I feel like I want to say something,
but it's just it's becoming so clearly abundantly evident.
That was such a good little thing that we all just were.
You have to be able to convey that aspect of assembly is required. It's not just here's my money and then I'm expecting magic to occur in a month, or here's my money, I'm expecting results to happen. It's here's my money because I'm ready to do the work. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of not earning what I'm worth. I'm sick and tired of seeing the same thing in the mirror that I'm not happy with. So here's my money. I'm willing to spend it and then also follow through on my commitments. And I think one of the greatest things that they do specifically is they keep you engaged, right? Like TRM has, like I'm on 2 phone calls a week. They're posting constantly on social media, tagging each other, commenting on each other's posts. So you feel like you're part of something. This is why a lot of clients fail in coaching practices, because they don't have that level of support. So Isaac, when you're dealing with people, not just on the business side, not just the TRM side, but when you're working with your clients, what type of a community are you fostering to be able to keep people on track?
That's a good question. And for me now, I only coach myself like 10 people. I've really scaled back as
individual nutrition fitness clients you're talking about.
Yeah, I really focus, and that's just like the few competitors that I genuinely like. I've either worked with for a while, or they're like higher levels, so like I just enjoy working with them. But at the same time, like I focus on the gym and our clinic and making sure that that's growing and scaling. Yeah. But within the gym and the clinic, all the members need to have that level of fulfillment and community. And so it's empowering the team as a whole to stay engaged, and then creating the SOPs appropriate, the operating procedures to hold me and my team accountable to keeping that client experience engaged. Because at the end of the day, client experience is manufactured. And I say that not to make it sound like it's not emotional. Like we do genuinely emotionally, invest into our members. But once you have 70, 80, 90, 120, clients or members, you don't want anyone to fall through the cracks. You want everyone to have that level of experience. So you need to create an operating procedure around that holds our team accountable to making sure every member gets the absolute best of us. And so that's what it really dives into in terms of how I place that level of community experience and that customer service into my business.
Well, like I think even Aram disappeared again. One thing Aram said before, which I wanted to point out, is he said, I want to make what I'm worth. And I think that's a thing that a lot of people could learn from in their own personal life. What am I worth? Or not even what am I worth, but start to realize the value of their worth instead of all this negative self-identity and negative self-talk. I think those things are huge. Once you get to that place, all of a sudden you are more willing to take those action steps, like what Aram's doing with his business, recognizing his worth. And the other thing that you had said before, Isaac, with the people, hey, they get in there and they have the 9-to-5 job and they realize like they're comfortable. I think that's okay too. Like it's a good, you signed up, you realized, hey, I'm comfortable with this. I don't want to put the work in for that growth. And sometimes a regular maybe client who's looking to lose weight gets to the point where they, I am happy with where I'm at. I am healthy. I do enjoy going out with my friends and this and that. And that's okay for people to get to that place. So I think there's these lessons that everybody can learn from the two things that you guys had just said. I just wanted to point that out. It was nice. Anyway, go ahead.
I love that. And one thing to note too, that Aram kind of hit on earlier, is like this whole, it's getting so oversaturated.
Yeah.
And we live in this time, and I think it is starting to switch. Just reading seeing the trends and everything going on in the industry, we are seeing a switch. But it's not just the fitness industry; it's everything. With this influencer generation that we have, everyone is an entrepreneur. Yeah. Everyone is out to make money and to make that life, right? And we're starting to see a switch now because they've done it long enough to realize that social media is unstable as shit. Yeah. And, you could have 1 month where you're making, 10, 20,000, and then another month where you're making $2. Like it just doesn't go the way you want it to.
That 20K month thing is going to be what those companies advertise. We got another 20K absolutely. Month client. Yeah.
But I think more people now are starting to see, like, I don't mind working for someone else.
Yeah.
But the big shift that we're going to switch from is all those entrepreneurs who tried and failed. Like, again, you haven't failed.
They're coaching other coaches now.
But it's more so like they're accepting the fact that, maybe I can work for someone else. Yeah. But instead of just going and getting the basic job, I'm not going to settle. I'm going to find a job that allows me to do what it is that I love to do with the security of someone else actually running the company.
Yeah.
And so we are going to see this switch in the next, I would say, 3 to 5 years, where we see less of these entrepreneurs out hustling and grinding and more people starting to find careers that fulfill them.
Yeah.
And again, I'll use Stan, my kind of second in command coach here, as an example. He loved what he does as a trainer, as a coach, and building, community and culture. But he also knew he's like, I'm not a business owner.
Yeah.
But you are good at the business thing, and you allow me to do what it is that I love to do, and I still get enough money to live a happy life to do it. 100% in. Yeah. You got me till the end.
There's nothing better than that synergistic relationship. It's such a great place.
Which then means like the growth of the entrepreneur, we're going to see less entrepreneurs per se, like influencer entrepreneurs, and we're going to see more entrepreneurs who are actually acting like business owners. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a beautiful.
Well, I think the reason why we're going to see it is because the other people won't be able to survive. It's
exactly.
Not hard, and you're just doing it based off of volume. At some point, your popularity will dwindle. People will know you're full of shit. You're not actually offering them anything other than bullshit, and they will start to go elsewhere. And then the only people that are going to survive in this industry are the ones who've been in it for 10, 15, 20 years because we've been doing it the right way.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know why the fuck my internet
lifestyle
is bugging out today. I don't know if I have to restart.
Fixes.
Sucks.
Your internet sucks. And Isaac's only 45% uploaded on Riverside right now. So we're going to be hanging out afterwards.
Hopefully it didn't completely destroy the flow of the conversation, but I think it was okay.
Yeah.
That's great. I appreciate that.
We didn't even notice or miss you when you disappeared. We were kind of hoping.
I hate both of you, and
yeah. It was better. There was a solid 3 or 4 minutes that was probably the peak part of the episode, and that was when you were listening.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll put a poll up, and if we
bookmarked those,
Journey broke up at some point, and Steve Perry went out on his own. So don't be afraid. I will go out on my own too, Jimmy. Don't you fuck with me.
You're gonna. You'll bomb
Creed
within
did the
a month.
same thing.
Scott Stapp,
and I'm pretty sure
everybody loves
one
Scott Stapp. Don't you
say?
Don't you fucking talk about Scott Stapp that way. From summer of '99 tour happening this year.
He is back
and better
Creed
than
is
ever.
headlining. 3 Doors Down is second billing, and I believe
Creed is back.
I have a thing that day. I can't make it.
The same song.
If you haven't listened to Disco Biscuit,
you got PJ Street into it now. PJ Street's now a fucking
the time to start listening.
Isaac, please. Isaac,
I did.
Please don't listen to
this. And Jamie and Katie. I'm getting Jamie and Katie into it.
Yeah, with arms wide open.
Yeah, go listen to Creed. Yeah. Yeah, and then it's like the person who can't lose weight because they don't want to do lifestyle change. Then you're trying to figure out why you have no friends and you're listening to Creed. You know? You got to grow up one day, Aram. That's a great shirt. Who needs friends? ? I have Scott Stapp.
Yeah.
That's a great
Canadian.
You and Matthew will get along great.
Second
is
place fan. I'm
Nickelback's #1 fan. God,
have you seen his new haircut? That was the old school when he had the blonde. Yeah, he's cut his hair now. He's very at the times.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, you're thinking of Chad Kroeger 1997. He's different now.
Old school.
He's a 50-year-old man now. He can't be walking around with.
It doesn't matter if he's changed. He's still that old.
Said every abusive ex ever. I'm different.
If Nickelback is abused, then color me abused.
Look, I got a haircut. I'm different.
The band's gonna make
it. All right, fine. Well,
there is no plan B.
This is how we're gonna end.
There is no plan B.
Trust me. Just ask your father for the $50,000. We'll make it.
I told you I wrote out the business plan. I printed it out. You just got to give it to him.
We're projected $8 million in 12 months.
Since you guys
it's
are both
airtight.
On music, Isaac,
airtight.
Your top 3 favorite musical artists? No, right now.
Now or of all time?
You could pick random times.
What's on
Maybe
your
a
Spotify
band
right
back
now?
in the
What's
day that
going
you
on?
love, the band now that you love. Whatever feels most comfortable.
Heart-centered
Follow
music.
your heart. This is a heart-led podcast.
Heart-led podcast. So band.
Heart-centered.
Band back in the day that I really loved growing up.
Well, tell everybody how old you are first.
I'm 30. So band growing up back in the day, though, would either be, I love classic, Creedence Clearwater Revival or Journey or Metallica. I really liked the classic stuff. And now more like indie or rock. I really like Alt J is like a really good group. I like that kind of grunge indie style. But at the same time, I do like Greta Van Fleet is really good, nice throwback to like classic rock.
How crazy
he's
is
a
it
young
that
kid.
they say that they never listened to Led Zeppelin?
Yeah, BS. Absolute BS.
How's that even possible? Like, we never listen to them. We listen to, and they have all these other influential bands.
Because he's reincarnated. Like, he's got a...
Yeah, it is insane, that kid.
Absolutely. Young kid, and to be able to make music like that is insane.
Yeah.
Please stop. Over.
Yeah, they're awesome. And Disco Biscuits. Dude, I was at a store today talking to probably this 55, 60-year-old guy about biscuits. And I'm like, they're playing in Atlantic City on July 12th. He pulls up his calendar. He's like, I'm not working on the 13th. I think I'm there. He just started telling me about like doing balloons.
He was a huffer, and that's who you were
back in the day.
Enjoying your company with.
Yeah. And I was like, and he said that, it was just this random comment that comes up. He's telling me this stuff. I go, you ever hear Disco
Biscuits?
No.
I used to tour with Widespread Panic.
You have to check them out. Anyway, I don't want to, oh God. You know what you might like? Check out Humphreys McGee or Humphrey McGee, whatever that band name is. They're like a jam band, but they have this one album. They might have more than one album of where they mix songs. It is so good. Humphrey McGee, Zonky is the album. So like they'll have a song like Sad Clint Eastwood, and it's Clint Eastwood by Gorillaz, and then combined with whatever that other song is. I can't even remember. Sweet Sunglasses. It's what's the friggin' sweet song? Yeah, Sweet Dreams. And then I wear my sunglasses.
Yeah.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
And then it will switch into like I wear my sunglasses.
So they do mashups.
They combine the songs. It's fun. It's fun stuff.
Huh, good.
That was mashups. That's the word. The word. My dementia kicks in every now and then. That's not what they do, but I'm
just gonna go listen to Creed.
Dude, that's not like the only thing they do.
Continue to be awesome. Thank you, though. Sure.
And do we put you on suicide watch
good.
right now?
Like I'm
knowing that you're going to sit and listen to that. Are you going to blast a live Creed show to get your 5 tasks done?
No, because that's going to require a hell of a lot more attention to be paid. Because if Creed is on, like I'm grabbing the broom and things are happening.
Rocking.
You're 100, and he's gone. What a loser! He's gone again. Listen,
I'm gonna go blast some Tool.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If he plays Tool, he loves Tool. That's his his band. He took a big hit with the Real Coaches Summit. It's not a secret here, so his internet is struggling, I think, But I know we always tend to go off, but on different things. But I feel like a lot of the stuff that you're sharing and telling us is awesome. I think this is a really good conversation. I don't even know what to ask you right now because I feel like I want to dig in more with some of the things that your strategies are with people or with coaches. I think that any coaches that are listening and they're looking to grow their business, just the way that you are going about saying the things that you guys do is, he said he has to go restart his computer, and I'll see you on the next one because we have another episode after this one with you. I wouldn't mind getting on again with you and having conversations, see what things come up. But maybe since he's totally gone, we wrap things up. Is there anything that you would want to kind of end with on these topics that we're talking about with either to the client out there hiring a coach, to the perspective that they can really start to adapt, or to the coach out there looking to grow their business? Again, it's totally analogous, so it almost doesn't even matter. Is there any thoughts that you would want to end on with on the show?
Yeah, I mean, if they're listening to this podcast, chances are they have been around fitness enough to understand what a good coach looks like, hopefully. That being said, it is important to understand, like, both as a weight loss, client or transformation client, or even a coach looking for a business coach, don't let an experience with one shitty coach ruin your views or dreams or whatever of what it might be. Because sometimes, it's great to try and grind it out on your own, but at the end of the day, you might just end up like that lady who's been crash dieting at 1,100 calories for 2.5 years and not even knowing what you're doing to yourself. Or you might be like that coach who's hitting 20-hour work weeks, working on all the wrong things, and end up, just in the hospital sick because you're completely burnt out. So trust the process, like research who it is that you want to work with. And once you do, find the right person, stick with them. Don't hop around anymore. Hop around until you find that right person. But once you find the right person, don't hop around. Like, build that relationship, soak in the knowledge, and always be a student, whether that's in physique, transformation, or in business. Like, always be a student.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too, it's like, even if you had a bad experience with a coach, it doesn't always necessarily mean they're a bad coach. Maybe you just didn't click with that person, and some kind of wall was put up for you. Maybe as the client, it was just like they left you feeling a certain. You're not going to click with everybody, and you keep trying different things. But like you said, I think that's great. You find that person you click with, you sit with them, you stick with them. Sometimes you're with somebody for too long, the accountability doesn't work anymore. Like, you got too comfortable with them. And they're like, I know. And maybe you try something new. And I think, and you alluded to it a lot, and it's something that I say a lot, is be curious. The whole fuck around and find out blow up of 2023 or whenever that guy did that chart online is the different way of saying, be curious. Try things out. Don't let cognitive dissonance keep you where you are any longer. And if you're sitting there thinking about these things, stop thinking and start taking action. If you're unwilling to just take that first step and take that action, what makes you think that you're going to end up starting to do it on your own? You keep thinking, I could do it. I've absorbed all this information. I could do it on my own. Let me keep trying. Just try. Find out. See if it works. You might find out, hey, you actually are happy. You might find out, hey, I actually like my 9 to 5 and my part-time coaching gig. I don't need to follow the pressures of online business coaching telling me to quit my job. Maybe you don't hate your job, Maybe it allows you to have some less stress around coaching. Because I know you might not know, I'm a high school teacher, 23 years high school teacher, and I fully recognize I love being a part-time coach right now. I am setting myself up for when I do retire. I'm in a position where if I do get to the point that I hate teaching, I can leave because I have this, and then I can grow my business. And it's okay to not quit your job. And if you do hate 100%. It, you got to take some steps and take some risks, So yeah, I think everything you said today was great, man. It started off with me getting on here tired, talking to you before Aram came on. And I think you dropped a lot of wisdom from experience, and I think for me, it's like wisdom sometimes is taking the advice from somebody else. You don't have to live it. Mm-hmm. Take the advice from the person who has lived it. My freshman year of college, my brother said to me, because it was a co-ed building, do not hook up with anybody on your floor. I did not have to do it to learn that lesson. I avoided it. And I took that lesson with every other aspect of my life. I'm not hooking up with anybody I work with. I'm not hooking at, that circle. So that's some wisdom. Take some advice. So you see people like Isaac, who's lived it. He's made the mistakes. He has failed, but not a failure. And take his advice. I think it was great.
Yep.
Yeah.
God's allowed me to fail a lot, and all of it to my benefit. So
yeah.
I'm going to take that. And then the number one lesson, again, take it from us so that you don't have to learn from the mistakes.
Yeah.
You can shave Nickelback's head. It's still Nickelback.
Mark Clip. I'll send that video.
We'll end it with that.
I love it, man. Well, thanks. And there is one last question that we ask everybody before we go. Bye-bye.